Joined on the line by former Conservative MPs Heidi Allen and Ed Vaizey, now Lord Vaizey. And also we are also joined now by James Daly, Conservative MP for Bury North. James, thanks for giving us your time.
Good afternoon, Alexis.
Good afternoon. I really appreciate you giving us this time today. Can I just start? Ed and Heidi and I have been talking about the rebels who voted against the tier system this week. You were one of them. Can you tell us why you voted against the government?
I voted against the government because I felt that an area such as mine in Bury North, which is in tier 3, to balance the very clear need to protect the most vulnerable in our community, their clinical and health needs, had to be balanced with the needs of the economy. And I felt that the hospitality sector in particular, restaurants, pubs, cafes, during December, this is the month where they make their income, where they make the bulk of their profit. And I felt that the financial package offered to support that sector of our economy was not sufficient for me to be able to vote for the tier system, and especially for an area such as mine going into tier 3.
So was it the financial package that you were objecting to, or were you objecting to the logic or the idea behind the lockdown itself?
Well, I have no objection to restrictions.
Right.
Clearly, restrictions are still needed. I support the government in their continued effort to ensure that as many of us are kept as safe as possible. But if, as a policy decision, you are asking a sector of the economy or requiring a sector of the economy to close, then I do not think it is unreasonable to adequately compensate that sector of the economy for the money that they are going to lose. And during this period, Christmas is the period for the hospitality sector where they make their money. In an area like Bury, that is where the money goes. That's where the money is made to sustain businesses over, January, February, March, and into the summer period. So it's much needed. And I think that for the tier system to work, there has to be that balance between protecting businesses and jobs, and also clearly the primary need to ensure that all our health is protected and health outcomes for everybody.
Okay.
Can I ask James a question, Alexis?
Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
I completely sympathise, James. It must have been, it's so hard when you've got businesses left, right and centre surrounding you totally on their knees, wondering how on earth they're going to keep going. So I completely understand that. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are around how the government handled the first lockdown, because it struck me at the time that it was very, very harsh. There was no subtlety around what kind of industry you're in. You were either a key worker or you weren't. Manufacturing businesses that potentially have huge, robotic controlled buildings with very few people in there, they all shut down as well. So I'm kind of curious, and now we're in this financial dichotomy of crumbs, how do we fund all of this? How do you think the government handled the first lockdown?
Well, I think, Heidi, as you know, this was something none of us were expecting. And, the government, I think, will be the first to say that they've made mistakes. They've made very good decisions. The one thing I know, having worked closely with government ministers throughout this, that they've worked with the best of intentions. They've wanted to keep the economy going whilst also protecting, the health outcomes for all of us. So, we could talk at length about mistakes that have been made, but I would prefer to look forward from this point. We've got the vaccine coming and all the other things, which are hopefully going to open up the economy and open up that bright future, which we've not had for the last 9 months. But I wouldn't run away at all from the fact that we could have done things differently. But I'm not sure that's the discussion that I particularly want to have now. I want to look at how we can make the system work to ensure that businesses. I'm sat here in Greenmount in Bury while I'm speaking to you. I've got a butcher's, an Italian restaurant, a beauty parlour, a pharmacy, and the co-op in front of me. I want to make sure that all of those are still there in April, May. That the financial support is to ensure that those jobs are protected. Talking about what's happened 6 months ago, I don't think is going to help that debate.
James, are you?
James, it's Ed Vaizey here. We were debating earlier about whether the Commons is kind of more rebellious than it has been in the past. I mean, you're embedded in Bury, and although you've got a small majority, you've been a councillor there for many, many years. I mean, do you feel that people in Bury still broadly support the government, despite presumably supporting you in taking on the government in how the tier system has affected them? Do they still support the kind of broad thrust of the government, how it's handling the coronavirus?
Yeah, I think so, Ed. I think that there's obviously people who are concerned about certain aspects of policy. I was on I was speaking with a lady who runs a cafe in the centre of Bury who is heartbroken that she's not allowed to open. Lecondy's in Bury. So, on balance, probably I think more people are supportive of what the government has done. It's funny, though, when we have these conversations, and you two have been far more eminent MPs than me, whether people support the government or not, or whatever the situation with rebellious MPs or not, the central thing we should be talking about is how we get ourselves out of the situation we're in. The elections will look after themselves when they come around. I don't go around worried about whether people are going to vote for me at the next election. I do go around concerned about how we can make sure that people still got jobs in the next 6 months.
James, I want to steer you towards Brexit, I'm afraid. We are hearing a lot about the negotiations. First, we've heard that they're at a deadlock. Then there was a glimmer of hope. Now we're back to deadlock. It seems to be on and off. The Times are reporting today that France has been behind the derailment of the Brexit talks. In your view, what does the Prime Minister need to do? Is it of utmost importance to deliver on this Get Brexit Done manifesto that he was put into office back about over 12 months ago? What should Boris Johnson's priority be when it comes to the Brexit talks?
Well, the priority should be to deliver on the manifesto commitment to get Brexit done. Now, I'm sure that, that to different people, the interpretation of that phrase may mean different things. For me, it's the recognition of Britain as a sovereign country, about the right of a sovereign parliament to make decisions, right or wrong, regarding those policies that we put in place that are going to create more jobs, whether that's lower taxation, whether that's increasing regulation, decreasing regulation, whatever it may be, trade policy, whatever it may be. So I think that, and I'm fully confident that what the Prime Minister and Lord Frost are negotiating is a trade deal that does not punish anybody, that is an open trade deal so we can continue to trade freely with our European partners, that nobody's punished by this, nobody's threatened by this, and that our status as a sovereign nation is respected, and those decisions that a sovereign nation will make are respected. Now, one of the things is the level playing, but if I could say, Alexis, the reason why I say that is obviously the issues about fisheries, there's issues about the level playing field. Well, we cannot be, in my view, it's rather difficult to get Brexit done if we are linked into a level playing field with the European Union. I can completely understand why the European Union wouldn't want British companies to have a competitive advantage. But that really isn't the point of Brexit. The point of Brexit was to allow our government to find those policies to differentiate from other countries, to ensure that we can bring jobs, we can bring businesses, we can bring prosperity into our country, and use a sort of a more creative way of thinking to ensure that our economy and the life chances of everybody in our country develop because of that ability to do that.
But James, do you accept that if we want to continue trading with the largest trading bloc in the world, the EU, and our biggest trading partner, they're going to have to be some concessions made? Sovereignty is one thing. Being in charge of your own laws, your borders, your waters, or whatever, is very, very important. But you can't just do as you wish as a sovereign nation, but want to, at the same time, be part of other people's clubs. There are going to have to be some concessions to be made there.
Well, I mean, as you know, Alexis, obviously the European Union have trade deals with other countries, the Canada's and Japan, who, there's no issue regarding level playing fields, certainly as far as I can see within those deals. We have a long history which is to be celebrated. I love Europe. I love, I have the greatest of respect for the European Union, but I have the greatest of respect for the British people when they voted in the referendum to get Brexit done, and certainly in the general election last year. Many of my Conservative colleagues and I are sat here because of that promise to get Brexit done. I think that a number of compromises have been put forward by the British government. I think the British government have acted entirely reasonably throughout these negotiations, which I know other people will disagree with, but that's my view, Alexis. And I think we've got to that stage now where the compromises have been made. I don't believe that what the British government are asking within this deal is unreasonable or not in line with what was clearly been, our negotiating position from the outset. So, no, I think that we cannot simply be, because the French president had a certain view on things, that does not mean that we have to compromise on everything that he requires. We require certain things to reflect the democratic mandate that all of us who sit on the government bench has got in December of last year.
Okay. James, thanks as always for